I know he says like the rich don't work for money, and it's funny because I'm trying to buy my first property, but I feel like I'm looking at side hustles and other things to like increase my income. But I've really, really cut down my spending. So I've created like a budget and I'm sticking to it. I'm refining it. And I've never, ever, ever, ever done that before. And I wouldn't have done it or thought about doing it without it. And for me, that was like, for now, 2 months later, the most powerful thing that's come from the book.
In the end of the day, you're going to have to answer to yourself and your maker of whatever you believe what you're doing is for the greater good. If you're in it just for profits, things are going to get nasty. Always be a good person. Do it for the right reasons. And Evicted teaches you to be humble, not to actually give into things, but to understand the other side of the coin, both as a tenant and as a landlord.
Welcome to the REI Partners Meetup. We're your hosts, Matt Morrow and Richard Clark. This is a place where knowledge is shared, friends collaborate, as we help each other to succeed in both our real estate and personal goals. We are a group of like-minded individuals from across the country who are here to help and support each other. Investors, realtors, entrepreneurs, and many others contribute to providing diverse and practical content for our events, especially our mentors who enjoy helping new and experienced investors in their journeys. Thanks for joining. We hope you enjoy the show and encourage you to bring others who may find value as we invest in our collective future.
All right, everybody, thanks for joining. Lots of new faces on the call today. We're going to do a little bit of a presentation about some investor reading material, essential reading material that we've all found very helpful. Hoping to have a lot of input, lots of experience on this call between everybody on right now and some guys trying to break into it. But we'll start off with a little round robin introduction. I'm going to start off with Richard, if you can kind of do your little elevator pitch, tell everybody who you are.
Yeah, sure. Hey, I'm Rich Clark. I am out in Western PA, near the Ohio border, and been in real estate investing for about 4 years now, and bought and sold several single-family homes, multi-units, and right now I'm working on getting some capital investment for some larger deals. And the Pittsburgh area really hasn't changed that much out here, so it's not it is a little bit of softening going on with the single family residential stuff, but we have a lot of high dollar properties out here, like in Cranberry Township and places like that are still doing quite well. So just working the game plan out on my end, and collaborating with Matt in Eastern PA. So we're looking to probably expand our portfolios out towards the south. Tennessee is big right now. Georgia is still pretty hot. Florida, of course, is very hot, and I'm looking to hear what's going on in the New York, New Jersey area, because I'm not sure how things are going when there's these migratory events happening in terms of people moving either into or out of those states. So looking to hear from you guys on that. But that's who I am. I'm out here. My contact info is available, and any of you are welcome to contact me anytime. Matt.
Unmute, sorry. Thanks. Brian on the call here. He's from New York. I think I'll have him just introduce himself next. Maybe you guys can connect and talk more about that. Thanks, Brian.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I'm based in Brooklyn. My wife and I have 3 duplexes spread out for some random reason of madness. 1 in Philly, 1 up in the Hudson Valley, New York, 1 in Newark, New Jersey. We did everything very quickly inside of a year, about 2 years ago, up to a year ago, and have had some tenants hunkering down in the Hudson Valley one, not wanting to leave or pay. So we've been in a long process of trying to remove them. It stopped some of our momentum, and we have gone through probably about 12 different phases of what our next strategy is going to be in the last 9 months or so. So that's kind of where we're at, trying to figure it out.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian.
Yep.
George, why don't you take off next?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is George Nave. I started investing in real estate back in 2019, where my wife and I bought a duplex house hacking at currently. Promised my wife we'd get our own primary residence after that, so that's what we're saving up for now. But my goal is to jump into it after we get that situated. So by next year, we'll be buying that residence and going back to getting about, the goal is to get 20 units under our belt. It should replace a lot of cash flow for us. I'm also a financial advisor, and so I just, I help real estate investors understand what it's like to invest in real estate. But we also do wealth management, lending, and banking in one place and on one app. A lot of people like the convenience of having everything in one place. And so if you're looking for like a financial plan or something, I can help that with the understanding of people wanting to invest in real estate, which not a lot of financial advisors have. Me.
Awesome. Thanks, George. Hey, Matt, why don't you go next?
Hey guys, Matt Arujo. I just graduated from a school in upstate New York called SUNY New Paltz. I got my degree in electrical engineering, and I'm currently staying for one more year to get my MBA. And for the last year and a half or so, maybe a little bit after COVID, was when I got into real estate. Really just self-educating myself. I've read a ton of books. I listen to 2 or 3 podcasts a day. I watch a ton of YouTube videos. So I'm looking to get into the game, and yeah, I'm really here to learn from you guys, hear more about your stories. So yeah, happy to be here.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. Tim, are you there?
Me?
Yeah, can you do a quick intro?
Yeah, sure. So, hi everybody. My name is Tim Wallach, originally from the Pennsylvania area, now living in Charlotte, North Carolina, working in asset management. No investment properties yet. That's why I connected with Matt and hoping to learn a little bit from all you guys who have some experience.
Awesome. Thanks, Tim. All right, John.
Okay, hi, I'm John Liberati. I'm from Eastern Pennsylvania. Actually, I'm close to Matt. I've been involved in real estate probably for 30 years. Most of our assets were apartment buildings. Some of them were single family. We had a lot of real estate in Reading area that we did sell off. During COVID, the prices were so high. People from New York were coming down, buying them, not asking much. So we sold most of the assets. We're looking to get back in. I'm looking to put money into bigger multifamilies now. So then I hooked up with Matt through Bigger Pockets, actually. So that is what we're looking to do.
Awesome. Thanks, John.
Cool.
Hey, Brian, I'm going to put you on the spot. You just called in. We're doing intros. Can you give everybody the Reader's Digest version?
Sure can. Actually, I know George. What's up, man? My name's Ryan.
Hey, what's going on?
What's up, buddy? Sorry I'm late, guys. My name's Ryan. I'm a newbie to the real estate investing game. I've gone to a couple of real estate meetups with George. I'm still saving up for my first property. I'd like to eventually get into like buy and holds, and I'd hope to have my first property by the end of March 2023. That's my goal.
Nice. Awesome. All right. Thanks, everybody. That's a good intros. Everybody on the call, I believe, had a chance to talk about themselves real quick. I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to talk about the main subject. It'll probably be, I don't know, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Just go into each of the books, talk about some updates and maybe some personal experiences. And if you guys have any suggestions along the way, please pass them on, because that's what we're about. We're all about collaborating. So this full screens for everybody?
Yeah.
All right, awesome. So the main book that we're going to start with is this one. Everybody on the call has probably heard about it. You've probably read it. I hope you read it more than once. I started an audiobook with it, and it was life-changing. So just a show of hands or wave your fingers. Everybody read Rich Dad, Poor Dad?
Yes.
Yeah. It's
who hasn't read that?
yeah. I don't want to put you on the spot that way, but Richard will. He doesn't care. It is fantastic. Rich Dad, Poor Dad is fundamentally one of the most important things you could learn, not just for real estate, but for anything in investing. The difference between an asset and not an asset, whatever he's going to call them, is so profound when you read this book that you can really start to define your life with every single decision you make. Everybody has requirements, food, shelter, things like that. But our society kind of breeds this: you must have this, and you must look like this, and you have to go to college and get a 4-year degree, and you have to have this kind of car. It's not the way for everybody. And you're almost bastarded into feeling the way that everybody else should feel. And real estate's kind of a unique deal where if you can get into something that pays you, it can be a life-changing event. So Rich Dad, Poor Dad by far is the absolute best foundational book for anybody, from my perspective and most of the people on this call, to learn about the difference between something that's going to cost you money and something that's going to make you money. So Robert Kiyosaki has a pretty awesome story in here, and it applies to a whole lot more than real estate. But does anybody have any personal pieces from this book that you've experienced or want to talk about that you might have some value to share?
I have played the game based off of the book, so that was been fun. So.
Yeah, cash flow game. Anybody part of a cash flow club? I'm starting one. It's going to be awesome. And it should be no surprise, Monopoly is a primitive version of this, but cash flow goes to the next level. I played Monopoly with my 7-year-old. She loves it. Mainly it was about rainbows and the colors to start off with, the little things. You could play with a dinosaur or whatever. But when you get somebody like that thinking about, oh, I can buy these properties, I'm out of money, it's just easier for me to sit in jail while you pay me. That's what she does. That's her goal now. She buys everything she can. She accumulates this portfolio essentially in front of her, and then she'll find a way to get in jail, and she will not come out because she makes more money sitting there, which is fantastic. It's essentially like the landlord trap. But Rich Dad, Poor Dad teaches you, and it taught her at a very young age, that those cards are the asset. Cash flow, the game that George just mentioned, is made by Robert Kiyosaki and the Rich Dad Company. Cash flow teaches you that it's not a limit of how much money you make or what you have, but it's how you spend it. And staying in the rat race, in the circle, just going round and round and round, just like Monopoly, hoping you get to go catch $200, just starting over, spending on stupid shit that you don't need. You'll never get out. So teaching you what an asset is super, super important. And that's this book. So everybody here seems to have connected with it in the past. Get it, read it again, get the audiobook if you want. Robert Kiyosaki has numerous other books, and I have 2 of them here that I'll share with you in a little bit. But let's brainstorm about Rich Dad for a minute. Anybody have anything they want to talk about? Parts of the book they like, parts of the book they didn't agree with?
I think one of the biggest powerful things for the book for me was, like, I read this like 2 days before I got married in June. And I was like, holy shit, I'm 30, and I have been like he says, just on redline, financially on redline my whole life. And like the way I looked at debt, the way I looked at all these things, it's like, I can't believe it took me this long to like kind of just wake up and get out of it. And I know he says like the rich don't work for money, and it's funny because I'm trying to buy my first property, but I feel like I'm looking at side hustles and other things to like increase my income. But I've really, really cut down on my spending. So I've created like a budget and I'm sticking to it. I'm refining it. And I've never, ever, ever, ever done that before. And I wouldn't have done it or thought about doing it without it. And for me, that was like, for now, 2 months later, the most powerful thing that's come from the book.
That's awesome. That's very, very powerful. And it's like a light switch, right?
Yep.
You read it and you're like, man, why didn't I think about this before? There's something as simple as the toothpaste story and the tubes of toothpaste as part of the book and creating your own money. Like,
that was awesome.
It is, but it shows that as long as you're creative, it doesn't matter what you're doing, and you want to be open and always educating yourself. Now that's huge. And all of us, every single one of us knows the poor dad. You know someone who's always keeping up with the Joneses. The house looks pretty. They have all the fancy cars. They have seemingly everything else, but they're up to their eyeballs in credit card debt. How many physicians do you know, Ryan, who are ass broke?
A ton. A lot of very rich people who I just can't imagine. Look at NFL players. These guys make more money than all of us here times 10, and they're 22 years old. And you're like, wait, they're bankrupt 2 years after? How? So it's just not having the cash is not the answer. It's the literacy behind it. And that's the coolest part since I've read it, is developing that. And it's awesome.
This book should be foundational for those people, specifically NFL players.
Well, football players are just a hair above boxers in terms of financial management knowledge.
Mike Tyson's not a smart financial dude.
I don't know. I would say that there's always room for improvement. I'll say it nicely.
So what else? Who has some other Rich Dad Poor Dad experience or parts of this book that you like? Anybody?
Well, it's been 20 years since I read it, so I'm having a hard time remembering too much, except for the early parts of the book comparing his father to his friend's father. But so like little anecdotes, like you guys talking about the toothpaste and stuff, it's been so many years since I read it, I can't even remember that stuff.
Yeah, same
But
here.
I figure this is good because it'll be a refresher. And in fact, it's sitting on the bookshelf behind me, but it's just been that long since I've read it.
Dust it off. It's awesome.
Yeah, I need to dust it off. Yeah.
Yep. And it's the timeless piece. It's not going to teach you specific real estate strategy. It doesn't care what a cap rate is, your cash on cash. It doesn't care. It's fundamental buying things that make you money, whether it's a building, whether it's a business, whether it's your nylon surfer wallet business that he made, that he thought he was a rock star. So they bought all the fancy cars, and then it just went completely out the window because he didn't copyright it. That was lesson number one. So someone else got a different business and did it better than him on his product with his product because he didn't copyright it. So this book launched him to success because he went on to Oprah and talked about it. And it just, talking about this kind of thing on that kind of show was unheard of. And it launched him into this completely different level of awareness, which turned into this. Well, I gotta hang on a second. Whoops. It's a book called We Want You to Be Rich, and it's blurring. But you can see that face, right? Everybody knows that dude. And him. And they wrote a book together, which is kind of crazy. Whether you agree with him politically or not, as a business owner, he's well, a little bit of hot water now with all these confidential documents today. But 2007, these dudes wrote a book together because they happened to meet each other at a conference. He was there, and Trump was actually the one that wanted to write the book with Kiyosaki because he read this book and they connected. And that's another one I highly suggest. I'm not going to go into details now, but it's about the principles of Trump and his father and Kiyosaki and his dad's talking about similarities. And they actually have excerpts from each of their lives going in parallel, writing the book together, which is really, really cool. Not your typical investment book. It's not very tactic driven, but it's something to put on your bookshelf, when you get done with one, go to the next and don't stop. So, who else just called in? Hey, Don. Hey, we just did quick intros. You want to do a quick 30-second intro? And if you have any comments about Rich Dad Poor Dad?
Sure. Let's see. I've been investing for 37 years now, mostly in Bucks and Montgomery counties. I have 51 rentals. I've owned about 140 houses. I buy a lot of subject to and seller financing. That's pretty much it.
Awesome. Thanks for joining. Do you have any comments about Rich Dad Poor Dad?
No, I read it about 20 years ago too, and I thought it was a real good book. Yeah. And no other comments.
Awesome. Anybody else have any comments about this one before we move on? If you don't have a copy,
I'll just say,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
I'll just say any book that changes your behavior and make you think about finance, because finance is like learning your own language, and all the acronyms that you have to go through and learn, and cap rate, DSCR, anything else, like, you know, for someone to learn that, there has to be some sort of motivation behind that, and that all comes to change your behavior. So I'd say out of all the people that I talk to, this is the #1 behavior changing book that I've seen people rave about. So that's my only comment towards it.
No, that's huge, George. Behavior change is big, especially in this business. A point of information that I would highly suggest, if you guys want, this is something I started doing years ago.
Okay.
I got about 10 of these sitting on my shelf. They're all brand new. If you find somebody who you think might be interested in learning or might learn from the ideals in the book, give them one, write their name and a little paragraph in the inside cover, just give it to them. $20 is well spent to change their life. If they don't use it, whatever, it's toilet paper to them, but you never know the impact you could have on somebody. So giving someone something like this is a whole lot better than giving them a Wawa gift card or buying them lunch, something like that. This could be life-changing, and it has for a lot of us. So any last comments on Rich Dad Poor Dad? Cool. Here's the next one. Whether you're a child of Gary Keller or Keller Williams Real Estate, or anybody, it doesn't matter. This book is foundationally another fantastic one to start reading. Have it here, read it a whole bunch of times, over and over, bookmarked, written up like crazy. What it does is it actually takes millionaire real estate investors and it tracks them through some of their journey. And it has interviewed, I think there's like 30 or 40 of them in here, actual guys and ladies from their respective areas, talks about their location, years in investing, number of deals they've done, career deals, units they own, areas of expertise, and if they hold a real estate license, which is an interesting metric because it has its ups and downs, if that helps people. But this book is from the guy, Gary Keller, Dave Jenkins and Jay Papasan, who are real estate tycoons, essentially, with their companies and an education and publishing now. The Millionaire Real Estate Investor isn't just a play on the word millionaire. It really talks about setting goals, basic goals from the foundational books like Rich Dad Poor Dad, and puts it into realistic, clear ways to get to certain levels. Now, guys like Don and John on the call here, you guys have had dozens, if not hundreds of units in the past. And that is a fantastic goal to get to. Some guys here are still trying to figure out how the first deal is going to work. But for you, you might not want to be the millionaire real estate investor. You already are. You want to be the $100 million real estate investor. Or maybe you're like, screw it. I'm selling everything to the New Yorkers because they're buying it up during COVID and I'm going to sit on my cash for a while. This book breaks things down into very, very simple chapters. It has, excuse me, rules of engagement. It has financial models. It has graphs. It has budget worksheets. It has all these things that a first-time real estate investor can get into. But most importantly, the text in here is real, and it talks about different things like cash flow. It breaks it out into simple diagrams. Highly recommend this book. Whether I was with Keller Williams in the past doesn't matter, because that's a Kool-Aid machine that doesn't mean anything. But this book that they wrote is fantastic. I would highly recommend it. Again, this is another one that I give out to people. Anybody getting into real estate investing who has aspirations of scaling, this is the book for them. This isn't the one for somebody who wants 3 or 4 properties to offset their retirement income. If you have someone who gets into this business and wants to scale, like Tim's on the call, Matt's on the call. I spoke to both of you in the last 2 days. You're looking to scale. This is a book that you can easily, at least conceptually, get those things. So highly recommend. Don, I see you made a comment about this book. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I've read a lot of books on real estate investing, and this one's my favorite. I bought this for a couple of newer real estate investors, and it covers everything, and it's the most complete book I've ever read. Everything from just getting started to goal setting and everything. I think it's the best book out there. It's just my opinion.
Anybody else? Has anybody read it? I know it's out there. It's kind of a bright cover. Has anybody seen it and read through any of it?
I've definitely seen it in the bookstore before.
Yeah, it's one to pick up.
Okay.
$25 on kellerinc.com. It's on Amazon. It's in Barnes & Noble, everywhere else. I mean, education, guys, is the biggest thing when you're getting into it. And even when you've made it, Don and John, you guys, you're past the point where most people would ever dream of being. And education never stops because things are changing. Did you ever think you'd see an eviction moratorium when the government would come in and say, no, you can't kick anybody out? This is ridiculous. You got to keep always on top of things, specifically education. So find this book, put it in your library. I should have done a disclaimer at the beginning of this. Nobody gives us these books. Nobody gets a penny from me talking about them. I don't want any of that stuff. These are just books that I personally read, and Richard has a few that he's going to talk about here shortly. But again, I think you should really look into this. Any other comments on Millionaire Real Estate Investor? There was a sister book to this called The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. If anybody here is licensed in real estate, that's also a good one if you hold your salesperson or brokerage license to consider reading. Similar thing, but it talks about becoming a well-rounded agent. The next one is my favorite. Who's read this book?
I didn't.
John, you said you didn't?
Yeah, I did. It's actually I listened to it on audio, but I've never. I don't really remember too much about it. But I did listen to it on audio. I'm actually going to be listening to it again.
So this is a book that I was actually I was renovating the basement in my house.
I turned you on to that one, didn't I, Matt?
What's that?
Didn't I turn you on to Never Split the Difference?
Vice versa. I gave you a copy of this in your car one day, the day you were carrying a sword around, Alan.
I did listen to it, and I listened to the audio book. Sometimes that's easier for me than reading it. But yeah, I listened to it. It's a great book on negotiation. That's really what it's about. It's not about real estate. It's not about any particular industry. It's about discussing with, or when you're talking to someone and you're negotiating, how to not, a lot of people will say, hey, well, let's split the difference and, and to come to an agreement. And he talks about it in the context of his position as an FBI negotiator, where splitting the difference on someone's life is not an option. So, yeah, it's a good book. There's a lot of great material in that. I really enjoyed it. I think that there's a lot of principles there to consider. I think it's very much personality dependent as to whether or not you can apply the principles that Chris Voss defines in there. If you're, let's say, an introvert and you're not the kind of person that really, goes after a particular deal in some way where, you don't want to rock the boat type thing, then it's going to be much more difficult to apply what Chris Voss is talking about. But if you're wanting to be successful, you're hungry enough, then those principles will definitely be the types of things that you'll want to do. So, but yeah, it's a good book as far as I could understand it. It was worth a read for sure.
Yeah, this book I actually heard about on a Bigger Pockets podcast. It was in like the 100 series episodes that was that long ago, and most of you guys know about the Bigger Pockets podcast. If not, find them. It is, again, life-changing. This guy was on talking to Brandon Turner and David Green about his book. They've become close with him as an FBI negotiator. This guy Chris, he was put in a bunch of weird positions to not be able to compromise, and as they apply it to real estate, this has huge potential when you're dealing with sellers. And there is a lot of good nuggets in this book. Some parts can be kind of painful to read and listen to based on the situation, lots of war-like stories, but it gives you a very clear ways to speak with people based on their personality and ways to kind of get to where you want to be by catering to their personality and making it feel like they won to them, but you're actually getting what you want, aka the hostage being freed. I personally, when I got a big deal come up, I put this book on loop and I run to it and I listen to it, because there's stuff that you forget about that you can remember in the heat of the moment. And when you have the opportunity to meet with the seller, this book is something that you can absolutely recall and go into. So I highly recommend this. This is a breakdown of the book. If you can see all these different pieces on here, and I could send this out to everybody afterwards. All about how you talk, the way you say. It's not what you say, it's how you say it, is kind of a small theme in this book, like our moms have always said, but it's about the things you say and when you say them as well. Mirroring, it talks about feeling like they are heard, regardless of the situation. The person who you're talking to needs to feel like they are heard, regardless if they just captured someone's life. They just want to feel safe and secure. So this book has so many different ways. It'll teach you how to get a discount on a car from a car dealership. It'll teach you how to get your kids to go to bed early and not argue with you. And it'll also teach you that there are things that are completely out of your control called black swans, and you are looking for these things because they could be massive, massive clues to the future. So again, never split the difference. Screenshot this page if you want. I'll send it out afterwards, but highly, highly recommend it. Any questions about Never Split the Difference?
I just got to chapter like 6 or whatever, and it's like getting this like a little bit past getting to know. And
Okay.
I've been trying this on my patients every single day. And I saw every person I saw today, almost all of them, I got them to say no.
Good.
And I just didn't do anything after that. And I was like, but instead of hearing like no, I started hearing like, I'm not comfortable with that yet. I don't understand that quite yet. So I'm trying to like turn that no off instead of being like, oh shit, no, I have to walk away, to like, it's okay. This is like where you want to start. And I never would have thought of that without listening to this. I'm hoping to use it in like future negotiations in real estate. Hope it works.
You will. And that example you used in the hospital setting is one from the book, where the doctor has a patient who's trying to leave. I believe it was a psych patient of some sort, and working with them to figure out what they wanted is huge. My brother, who's a police officer, he calls me frequently. I would say at least once a month with something from this book. I turned him on to this, knowing that if you can see what police deal with on a day-to-day basis, and some of us have experienced law enforcement, and some people on the call do as well, it's not understanding the other person's situation, but being able to get what you want based on their thoughts and feelings. Did you get to the part of this about Hillary Clinton yet, Ryan?
Not yet.
No, okay, I won't ruin it for you. But regardless of your thoughts on the lady, he goes into detail about, she essentially has all these spots down. My brother calls me and says, hey, look, I'm on cloud nine. Just use this from Never Split the Difference. I Vossed him. I Vossed him. He's like using it as a, an adjective. He's Vossed him. You can do all these different things in any part of your life. As long as it gets you to where you need, you're not controlling the person. You never want to control the person. You just want to have a stable, non-explosive conversation, especially if you're in a hospital with a patient, Ryan. Or if he's out there with somebody who wants to kill him on the side of the road and he has no backup, that sounds really bad. But when you're sitting in a room with a seller trying to negotiate the sale of their property, you can get to the same place. It's just not as hostile physically of an environment. So I'm glad you actually read it. I believe I told you about this book before, right? Was that why I picked it up? Yeah.
I actually I was on like chapter, I just bought it. Like the first time you and I talked after we met on Bigger Pockets, I had just downloaded the ebook, and I don't know how we got on the subject of it, but it was like a perfect timing on it. But I'm glad I started reading it.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Anybody else have comments on this one? All right, we're going to get all nerdy for a minute. Tax-free wealth. This dude, Tom Wheelwright, is the CPA for Robert Kiyosaki. And he does a lot of different books for the Rich Dad series. But this one, once you're into real estate investing, your goal is to stay in real estate investing. And the way you do that is by increasing your profits while being a decent human to the people who need to, hang on a second. Oh, you're talking to Don. Yeah, feel free to look in the chat, guys. If you have any questions, ask around or put your contact information in the chat so we have your stuff there, or I can share it afterwards. Once you're a real estate investor, maintaining your investments is super important. This book from Tom Wheelwright is fantastic in explaining the tax benefits and not loopholes, but tax benefits real estate investing offers. I highly recommend this. I don't have a copy of it with me, but Tom does a great job of breaking down the basics from deductions to sole proprietorships to if you're a corporation or if you're going to a 1031, things like that. There's all of these different things that you can use from this book practically. However, it gets updated because there's things that you can do now that you couldn't do 10 years ago and vice versa. So you want to stay current on some of the different rules that are out there. Tax-Free Wealth by Tom Wheelwright is definitely one to keep an eye on. I don't know if I have another one here. What I'll do is I'll go back to the beginning. Rental property investing. Both of them by Brandon Turner on Bigger Pockets are really, really good. From the beginning, I think they're like 19 or 20 bucks. He breaks down all these things in general, very, very general terms. And I highly recommend that. I think you get a discount if you're a Bigger Pockets member. And the last one I want to talk about is way up in this top right corner. And this is a book that I've recently finished. It's called Evicted. Evicted is one that it's not a real estate investor book, but it is for people who want to be more in tune with the people that they're serving. The book is about a series of people who live in Milwaukee during the recession, the 2008 recession. It talks about landlords, new landlords inexperienced, and it talks about tenants who all are part of a nasty, nasty process in a very, very tough town. It goes through the author's life. They uprooted what they were doing. They moved into the town and they physically moved into the trailer park that was falling apart. They moved into the duplexes that were falling apart, and they learned these people because they wanted to provide more of a well-rounded education to everyone about what's really happening out there. It's not an easy read, but the stuff that happens in here is really polarizing, and it should make any one of us think when you go into a typical investment, you always want to do it for the right reason. And everybody that I talk to, this is how I start the conversation. If you don't want to get into real estate to help and provide safe living for people, don't do it. Even if the person is yourself, don't do it. In the end of the day, you're going to have to answer to yourself and your maker of whatever you believe what you're doing is for the greater good. If you're in it just for profits, things are going to get nasty. Always be a good person. Do it for the right reasons. And Evicted teaches you to be humble, not to actually give into things, but to understand the other side of the coin, both as a tenant and as a landlord. Really awesome stories in there. I think it's definitely something you guys should look at. It's called Evicted, and it's a recent publication on the Wall Street bestseller list, and something I think everybody should at least tune into. So, what do you guys think about that? Any questions, suggestions? Anybody read Evicted or the BP investing books?
Read the book on rental property investing, and at that point, it pretty much just took to light a couple things that I already knew and reinforced them. And so I was really happy to kind of just, know that I was on the right path, because I originally got the real estate investing through watching some YouTube videos and learning about that for like 2 years, just watching and learning and, making sure. And then I saw the Bigger Pockets podcast, and so I ended up buying the rental property investing. And yeah, it's a good book. I would definitely recommend it. There's definitely a couple of books that I haven't read here. I think I should definitely read Evicted and Never Split the Difference if I was going to take away 2 today. Millionaire Real Estate Investor comes in a very close second for me.
The one down here in the bottom center, Good to Great by Jim Collins, is another one that Bigger Pockets pushes sometimes. It's not specifically real estate. I don't have a bigger picture of it here, but it's about taking your business or taking your life or taking whatever machine you're working in and moving it from just being good or the status quo, being okay with what you're doing, to being great. And they define the word great metrically, which is kind of cool. They take companies, all from publicly traded companies on Wall Street from certain times in the past. And even though some of these companies have far exploded and some are completely bankrupt and no longer in business, it tracks the data of companies that went from a certain metric to a certain metric over time and how they did it and what they did to do that. Now, some of the ones that come into play are Wells Fargo. How Wells Fargo, compared to their same competitor at the time, did things they didn't know they were doing at the time that made them explode to being a great company, not one that's just average. Now, there's lots of competitors, Bank of America or whatnot. The other one that a lot of us are familiar with was compared to in the negative. Bethlehem Steel is actually in this book. They talk about Bethlehem Steel in this book and how it was a train wreck that failed because they built the Martin Tower. They built a building that looked like a cross so that every executive could have a corner office window like they deserve. They have limousines. They have all these things. They spent exorbitant amount of money to preserve the life of the leadership of the company, where the people working in the steel, who all of us who live in the Lehigh Valley have family that worked at that campus. I have family that literally worked there. So is my wife and many other people. They were neglected, and that business failed because of that. But I found it very, very ironic that this book compares a local business who we perceive as this tycoon in the industry to be a failure, when the opposite company, I forget the name, was the one that did everything the right way, and they actually are still in business. So Good to Great talks about the business moving and your life, essentially, depending on how you apply the knowledge, going from just average and good to great, the steps that are needed and what the leadership is required to do to move from good to great. And it all boils down to the basic concept of you need to be passionate and unequivocally dedicated to what you're doing. You cannot be personally or financially invested in it. You cannot care what happens to your well-being because of it. Great sacrifice is what makes companies good to great. So that's another one I thought worthy of at least mentioning. But that's all I have. I don't even know what time it is. It's almost 6 o'clock. Richard, you got a few that you want to mention on here really quick before we go from there?
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, there's only a couple that, I mean, you've hit all the high points of the books that I would read, that I continue to go back and reread sometimes. But one I would say, and I don't have a picture of it because I'm on my phone. I've been sick today too, guys, so forgive my if I sound a little bit off today. But the first book was Cover Your Assets, Lawsuit Protection, How to Safeguard Yourself, Your Family, and Your Business in the Litigation Jungle. Is by J.W. Mitten. Many of you may recognize that name. Jay is like the father of asset protection. And it's a great book to, it's one thing to build the wealth. It's another thing to keep it. And I think that Jay covers that. I did a session, I think a couple months ago or something on asset protection where I talked about some of this. So, but I think that this book is really one that I think would be of extreme value when you start building a large portfolio. And if you have all that stuff in your name or and you're a single member LLC, then, well, you're at risk, and obviously you don't want to be at risk. You want to be safe from the potential litigation in the society that we live in today. Very important to protect your assets, and that's a good book to read. Cover Your Assets, Lawsuit Protection, J.W. Mitten. And that's one I would recommend that you read or take a look at. The other one is Money Secrets of the Rich. We talked a little bit about Robert Kiyosaki, and there was a mention of Trump's wealth as well earlier on. Money Secrets of the Rich is written by John R. Burley, and he happens to know personally both of those men, and has worked with both of them. In fact, Robert Kiyosaki says of his book, when I need strategic advice about money, John Burley is one of the people I call. Every time I am with John, I learn something profound about money that immediately increases my wealth. So again, that book is Money Secrets of the Rich, John R. Burley. Learn the 7 secrets to financial freedom. I think this, combined with some of the others that was mentioned, would give you what you need to know in terms of managing your money and building a portfolio. Running a private equities firm out here in Western PA, working with investors to build managed portfolios is a challenge, and it's one where when I work with an investor, I try to make sure that both me and that investor is protected, and that we can grow that portfolio in a way that they would like to see it grow as much as possible. So, but I think that with all of these books that's been covered, Matt, that's been a great job at that. All of those books are books that I've either read or am going to read. There's a couple in there that I don't have. I think that this is where we need to focus, and it's all about mindset, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you have to stop thinking like a consumer, start thinking like an investor, and that's a completely different mindset. And that's what I've learned, both from I know John personally, and I've taken Jay Mitten's course. He had a course on asset protection, utilizing things like family limited partnerships, LLCs, trusts, various instruments to, and I've taken all those courses, and I can tell you it changes your mind and the way you think, just like Rich Dad Poor Dad does initially. So that's all I really have to say about it. I think that there's a lot of good material out there. Be careful of what you read, and go with the stuff that we've covered here, and I think you'll be all set.
Awesome. Thanks, Rich. Anybody else have info they'd like to talk about, or any other books they'd like to recommend? And George, you had one in the beginning that you had mentioned.
Yeah.
Well,
I really enjoyed reading The 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Price. I enjoyed that because it really boiled down to how to make your business more efficient. And I've seen other real estate investors go ahead and hire a virtual assistant to take care of things that they don't want to do. I would say as any investor, we all have our strengths and weaknesses. And I've always kind of found that the best type of business owner really plays to their strengths really well, but then outsources their weaknesses. And only we can really know what those are. But it's a great way to kind of make because real estate is very much, active investment when it comes to finding the properties or anything like that. How to make that just a little bit more passive in a way, and then find a way to sit Mai Tais on the beach all day if you want. So it was kind of an eye-opening experience, and some of the stuff in the book was a little bit. I didn't agree with everything, but I would say a vast majority. It was a great learning experience, and so I'd recommend 4-Hour Work Week.
That's awesome. Thanks, George. Ryan, were there any other ones that you read? I know you've been doing a lot of research and a lot of education. Are there any other ones or podcasts or anything you'd suggest?
No, I when I read Robert Kiyosaki's, it was the third book. It was like Robert Kiyosaki's like Guide to Investing or whatever. In it, he says like read these 7 books. So I have to go back and like see what the rest of them were, but the first one was Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And like what Rich was saying is exactly that book talks about, is basically like changing your mindset on your goals of what you want to do as far as like achieving like whatever financial status you want to achieve or anything that you want to achieve. But it's very similar to Rich Dad Poor Dad in a way, like George said, that it gets you moving, it gets you up, it gets you creative, it gets you thinking. But like you said, you want to do these for the right reasons and like helping people like put them into houses. But this book is a little bit more about like, okay, if you have a monetary goal, like here's how these 13 principles of 50 successful people like Henry Ford, Andrew Carnegie, that the author actually studied and met with, how they have achieved like their success and their wealth. And he talks about weaknesses in there, George, like how to identify your weaknesses and not run away from them, but attack them and work on them. It's really cool. It's a very mind-boggling book. The author suggests you read like 1 chapter a day only. It's a good book.
Hey, I got a question. Yeah. Has anyone ever read the book How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie?
Oh yeah.
No. I was just about to mention that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Nice job, Bridge. I forgot about that.
What is it called?
Yeah. It's How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. I'm reading that one now. Actually listening to it. So
yeah, it's a great book.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one that I'm reading now or listening to now. Another one is another one I'm listening to is has to do with business credit decoded by Ty L. Crandall. Basic Economics, Thomas Sowell. Rich Dad's, here's another one. Rich Dad's Before You Quit Your Job.
Okay.
Yes.
That's another good one.
Fantastic
one.
That
turned me on to that one.
This is great.
Yes, that Before You Quit Your Job, Rich, is, I'm going to share this. Yeah.
While you're pulling up, I have a quick question.
Can you see this one?
I am not able to put my information in the chat because my chat feature is disabled for my company. Yay. So if anyone wants to put my information in the chat, please do so. Sorry to ask.
Yeah, thanks, George. Sorry about that. So this is the Before You Quit Your Job one that Richard just mentioned. This is a fantastic book, and it talks about the different levels of commitment that you really need to be in before you make that jump. All of us, have aspirations of being real estate investors of various levels, and not everybody wants to be a full-time landlord. But if you do, this is definitely one to look at. Nice job. Thanks for bringing that up. What was the other one? Let's see.
Well, there was another one. There's also Self-Discipline for Entrepreneurs by Martin Meadows. I don't know if anyone knows that one. And there's another Rich Dad one.
Yep. How to win
Rich
friends.
Increase your financial IQ.
Yep.
That's another one.
I'll even say this on YouTube. If you ever look these books up and you just want to listen to the audio, they have that for free too. So if you just wanted to kind of, and you can listen to them at 2 times speed. You want to, so that way you can get through the book.
You do that also?
Yeah.
But like a speed and a half. I can't digest more than that.
Me too.
Anybody else have suggestions?
The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. I haven't heard that one yet, but that's one in my Audible list.
Oh yeah, look at that. I've heard about that one.
Psychology of Money.
Yeah.
Nice. Hey Matt, you're on there? What stuff do you listen to? What have you read? I know you're still trying to jump in here, and you do a lot of research, obviously, or you're doing a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I listen to the Rookie podcasts. I feel like they're a little bit easier for me to understand. And the podcasts that I usually try to listen to are the investor stories. I feel like that's where I get like the most information from. I like listening to the videos that they have on like negotiating, how to like fund deals, but listening to people's stories is definitely what I gravitate more towards. So I try to listen to those as much as possible.
Awesome. There's another one that the Bigger Pockets guys come into. It was Cash Flow to Freedom. Now it's called AJ Osborne. He is pretty heavy into the self-storage. He's out in Boise, Idaho. I really enjoy listening to his stuff. He does a lot of monologue one-on-one talks, which is pretty cool. But the stuff this guy's talking about is macro level, like whole economy stuff. And then he zooms into one specific market and talks about some other things. He had a huge life and insurance, very successful insurance agency out west. And then he was crippled. He literally lost all control and slowly rebuilding it. So it made him reflect on his life, and what made him realize, real estate's the way to go is because he was just an employee to earn money. And he knew a lot of people, but I would highly suggest that it was AJ Osborne is his name. And then there's another guy on one of the other Bigger Pockets episodes. He's pretty active on Facebook. The guy's name is Steve Rosenberg. I'm sure that some of you have heard about him. He is an airline pilot. He flies for United. So he and I connected that way. I've been talking to him quite a bit off real estate. No surprise, right? I'm a nerd. But he has a whole portfolio of stuff. He's been buying stuff for years, and he's on one of the podcasts. And I just really connected with this guy about checklists and the use of strategic approaches to every single thing, because that's what we have to do in the airplane, right? You don't do this, you miss something bad, now all of a sudden you got a problem. So he and I really have connected there. Steve Rosenberg is his name, and he does a lot of motivational speaking. He travels around the world, obviously, and he does motivation in different places. So I'd suggest looking to that. But anybody else have any other ones they'd like to talk about?
If you guys had to pick like 3 of these for like a newbie like me to read, like of all the ones that we talked to, which ones would you pick?
The Rich Dad series.
Okay.
For sure.
I read that. I read the BI Triangle. I read and the all right, that's that one. That's what I just bought.
Millionaire Real Estate Investor. And the other one that I didn't show, I have my whole library here. I'm in a hotel room. I carried all this stuff with me just for the purpose of this call. this, I don't know why it's not coming. It's called The Rich Are Getting Richer. And I hate that they use the word rich, but it attracts people to the book title.
Yeah.
It's not just rich. They're talking about wealth. Wealth is another version of the Kiyosaki series. And it talks about financial education, not just the fundamentals of real estate investing or investing in general. This talks about why someone who gets it, someone who read Rich Dad, Poor Dad and is implementing it like you are, Ryan, why someone like you is automatically going to be more successful because they know their limits, they know about education, and they're doing things that are going to teach them ideal that are going to get them further than the average person who just complains about their job and never learns to move on. You know, you're the only one in control. And even if you lose control, something crazy happens, you're the only one who can control how you react to it.
So you mean to say, Matt, that there's a difference between being rich and being wealthy?
I didn't say that. They're one and the same, Richard. Anybody confused by that statement? I think we should dive into that. That was funny. Nice job. I'd fist bump you if this was person. Nice. That's all I have. There's so many different things you can listen to and go into. Matt, you mentioned a few of the other podcasts that I think are really, really good. You might want to give some of those to Ryan. The podcast series for the newbies. What was the one you mentioned?
It's the Rookie Real Estate Podcast.
Okay. Yeah, the Bigger Pockets has a rookie. Is
Yeah,
that talking about that? Okay. Yeah, there's a few. You get out on these podcasts though, just be careful because there are so many sharks out there just trying to get your info and sign up for this mastermind, sign up for that. Anybody who asks for your credit card to get information, you got to be wary. That's why we don't charge for anything. You know, this is just a bunch of guys talking. If we can do deals, great.
Yeah, the best forums are the forums like we have here, Matt, with REI Partners, where we can share real world knowledge and we share it for free. I mean, at the end of the day, whatever information or secrets, as they say, are out there that they want you to pay for, it's not worth paying for because you can always get that information elsewhere.
Yep,
absolutely.
And this is authentic. It's real conversations, everything you're getting here. That's why we do a little intro because there was a few new guys on the call today. And there's like 80 people on this mailing list now. And some call in when they can, others call in, you know, after the fact. They watch the YouTube videos, but mostly everybody on the list interacts, which is pretty neat. And it's a lot of guys. And this is only a few years in the making. So I know George, Ryan, you've both attended the same investor meetup that I went to in person, and that has a special place too, going in person and meeting guys and exchanging business cards and having a beer on the house and listening to the elevator pitch about wholesaling. I guess, you know, you can do some different things in an in-person meetup, but here we have the unique ability to be able to just call in, watch the stuff, and go back to whatever you were doing and have good conversation in the meantime. You know, we've had a lot of kick-ass presentations by people in the past. I highly recommend watching the past videos if you get a chance. The further back you go, the less professional they look. And if we go really far back, oh man, it's pretty comical. It can be pretty bad. But yeah, we're trying to make it a little bit more formal so everybody enjoys it. And the goal with this REI Partners thing that Richard kind of touched on earlier is we're just trying to get people who think the same in the same room, and stuff is naturally going to happen. And just recently, Richard had presented to the group. We actually sent out, we didn't have a meetup at the time or at that particular time. If you get a deal or you want a deal, this is the group that you come to first, because there's people in here. We have agents, we have insurance reps. George is in the financial world. We have lenders. We have really, really experienced investors. The two guys that just checked off, Don and John, they're being very modest. Don had 50 units. John has 3 times that he sold all before COVID. These are just normal dudes. They're very, very cool. You know, I'm glad they were able to call in today. And Bigger Pockets has networked a lot of us. But, you know, Richard and I, we've known each other for 20 years, and somehow him and my ass fit in a small airplane together, and I got to teach him how to fly. The next thing you know, here we are 20 years later, really, really close in real estate. You never know who these people are going to be. So just do your best to learn and experience everything, because Matt, you never know when you meet someone that can springboard you. And same thing, Ryan, we connected. We know a lot of similar people. George, the people you influence and the people you work with are very, there's a reason they're with Merrill Lynch. It's a renowned name, but you're doing it yourself. So everybody on the call is someone who I would call and say, hey, look, I got a deal. This is what it looks like. Who wants in? I'm going to call you before I go into the MLS and list it and throw my stupid sign in the yard and have my mugshot out everywhere trying to sell the place. I would much rather help or be part of something bigger. And eventually these deals aren't going to be single family. John's looking at 50, 100 unit plus, like new acquisition. That's different level stuff. And, we get into a conversation with everybody, and you never know where it's going to go. So,
well, we need to have him maybe do a blurb on how he got started.
I think he's going to be September or October. That's something I'd like to discuss with you more after the call. But he is all about it. We just got to get his camera fixed.
Yeah,
that's funny. Some people don't care. I'm working with a guy right now.
An interesting conversation. I'd like to see that, actually. That made me pay attention more, actually.
Yeah.
Matt was saying he liked those the real estate the podcast with the rookie with like the stories.
Yeah,
me too. I love it. So it'll be great to hear his.
Mm-hmm. And all of us have a point where we learn from somebody, and all of us, whether you know it or not, have a mentor, whether it's a book or a person. I consider Rich a mentor to me, and it's just very, very cool to be able to interact with people like this on a personal level, and you get to know them, and you never know where people are going. You truly
just remember, guys, it's all about helping people. And if you keep that mindset that you're looking to help another person, and your wealth will come through that. That's my personal belief. I believe in helping people get into homes and helping people that presumably could not afford or think that they couldn't afford to get into their home, get into a home that they can actually have as their own. And the wealth will come from that. And I think also, though, that, at some point in time, you're going to run out of your own money. Okay. You're going to have to learn how to use other people's money, the whole OPM principle. And then establishing those relationships with capital investors to work with them towards a common goal of investing in properties. And I think that's really the way to go with it. It's an interesting way of thinking, and you don't feel like you're alone, because you're not. You have resources around you now that can actually help you get to the next level, and we all learn from each other. So.
And it doesn't matter the level that you're at either. Matt, you're just starting. All of us call someone and ask questions. John calls people to ask questions, and everybody of every level, no one is past education and learning. So don't think if it sounds like a stupid question, Ryan, you and I were talking earlier about some seemingly basic stuff, but it's important for you to know before you get into this, because you don't want to make a bad decision on your first deal. It'll sink you. And then it's not good for you. It's not good for the tenants. It's not good for your future. And that's why all of us are here. So, we'll send out a message with everybody's contact information. George, you can't send one out now, but we'll make sure everybody gets contact with everybody. Is there any specific thing? We got a few minutes left here. Surprisingly, we're done early. Normally we're late. Do you have any subjects that you guys would like discussed in the future? We have a list of ones that we want to present. A year or two ago, we were on like deal analysis. We pull up a particular deal that we did or will be doing. We blur out some of the sensitive stuff, and then we just talk about it. Richard presented on asset protection and wealth management, or like protecting your assets literally through a will and different tools there. We have some investors come on, talk about the projects they're working on. There's a girl, her name's Melissa. She's developing in the Caribbean right now. She's developing 4-unit Airbnb buildings, new construction. He's an airline pilot who just gave his notice to retire. He's in his mid 40s and he's a full-time real estate investor, buying up 60-unit buildings. They're up to 90 in Columbus. It's crazy. Any suggestions you guys have, George?
I would say maybe a good suggestion would be the biggest things that would eat away your cash flow for any like newer investors. Be a
Cash flow killers.
Yeah, cash flow killers. Yep.
You want to do that one?
I wouldn't mind talking about it. Sure, I don't care.
All right, cool. Yeah. Hey, I'll tell you what. It gets real old putting together PowerPoint presentations, but I love it. If you want to do it, I'm all for it, man.
Okay. Yeah. No, I'd be happy to put them together, and I want to interview a couple people just to make sure that I'm sure you guys have plenty of knowledge, because I have one unit, you guys have many, so looking forward to hearing some stuff.
Yeah,
too.
well, call us. We can figure it out. And then if you want to present, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Ryan, Matt, do you guys have any suggestions? And this is your first one here.
I guess, I mean, pretty basic, but just fundamentally knowing how to analyze a deal, running numbers. I feel like that's something that I've seen and heard a bunch of times, but to actually see a deal that, someone has done and what the rehab process was like, how they funded it, I feel like that would be pretty good for me to see.
Yeah. Hey, Rich, that's actually a good reminder. We had thought about doing another version of this call where we do a separate call with people who are just getting started or have 1 or 2 deals for stuff specifically like that, because someone like John doesn't care how to evaluate a flip or a burr or something.
Right.
So it might be cool for him to tune in, and you never know, he might be. But would you guys appreciate something like that if we do a different call, maybe more frequently, and just literally put a deal on the screen and talk more about it? Because we're going to talk about specifics that you guys are going to buy here shortly.
Yeah, that would be awesome, man.
Just in general.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, let's go ahead and set that up, Matt, because we have the tools to do it, and we know the parameters to look at. And I think for next month, I usually do like a 5-minute, what the numbers mean. Cash on cash return, cash flow, cap rate, internal rates of return on investment, all that. Knowing what those numbers mean and how to calculate them and when they're relevant is going to be important for a newbie. So I think that'll be a good way to introduce that, Matt. So let's set something up for, I don't know, we can probably do it in a couple weeks. And then for you guys that want to come on and get some ground level stuff, that'll be a good opportunity for us to do that. We'll do a live deal.
Yeah, awesome. That'd be perfect. The tricky thing with this group, because everyone is so far spread out, and all of us have, 1, 2, 3, every one of us has a real job, except Richard. He's unemployed and lives in a field in a tent. And but you sold everything for a shit ton of money. And it's funny to be in the position you are in. I think that's a really good idea. Finding a time that all of us are available might be tough, but if we can hit most of the people who are interested, is that cool with you? Then we'll just, we could stream it and maybe do a few of them to make sure everybody gets on the same page. Does that work?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, cool.
Just tell me the time, man. I'll make it work.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. In the past, these videos have been at various times, kind of on purpose, but because everyone has changing and fluid schedules, mainly for Rich and I to be able to be here and facilitate the call. But if you see the next big meetup at like Thursday at noon, it's normal. And if you see one at like a Saturday or Sunday, we try and hit different parts of the work week, because some people have the 9 to 5s, other people have set schedules. And those of us that don't know what a day of the week or season are, we got to make it work. So I don't have anything else. This was a lot of fun. I really appreciate you guys calling in. Do you guys have any last comments or questions?
I just want to thank you guys for like being so helpful and cool because I started this and was like, oh shit, like I have no idea what I'm doing. And like, there's so much, like in medicine, there's so much information, and it's so hard to know what's right, what's wrong, what's BS, what's real. And it's so cool that you guys are like, hey, let me help you, let me help you, let me help you, let me help you meet up. It's just, I don't know. It's just, I was telling my wife the other day, I was like, there's not a lot of people who are like super kind and want to genuinely help you. So this is like, I was skeptical. I was like, what? Why are they going to help me so bad? But like, I appreciate it so much. So thank you.
Who's this random creeper? Why does he keep trying to help me?
Like, he's going to call me cute and that's it.
Listen, Richard did that once and his wife heard it, and that was the end.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, this business is so small, just like every business. And that's what real estate is. It's a business. And if you want to be involved in it, you have to be prepared to make smart business decisions. And all of us got our help from somewhere. Because if you don't, I mean, we've been exposed to some pretty influential people over the years in real estate. And myself and Richard and George, you know, there is a lot out there that is not good. And you don't get into a position like that without, you know, turning over some interesting rocks and getting down and dirty. But there's a way to be a decent person in everything you do. And, you know, Richard's very modest in what he talks about, but he has a pretty awesome past, not only in defending this country, but preaching the word of what he believes to a congregation and being a rock star tech entrepreneur. He is very smart, but that's not real estate. That's Richard. And being that is going to get you where you are. And same thing, I was born and raised helping people through Boy Scouts, through running on an ambulance, seeing a bunch of my friends, you know, make stupid choices and die in front of me. You know, it made me real humble. And I want to make sure that moving forward, you make the best choice. You guys see a lot of this stuff, right? You know, it's okay to be skeptical, and you should be, because I would be worried about, you know, some random person too. But helping people is the only thing that's going to make you move forward. And it takes you know, not everybody's in a position to be a decent teacher. They're more kind of sit back. I love teaching. I love explaining things, probably to a nauseating end, but that's just who we are. So I'm glad that you can connect with us. And if you have anybody else that you see that might be, you know, a good part of this group, or someone that you know that might want to learn more, please just have them email us. You know, we're very open. We'll make it work. We all have other stuff going on, but we'll do our best to keep it going.
Yeah, the truth is we want to teach you so that you can owe us like the mob. Okay.
I knew it.
When we're done with you, you're going to owe us all kinds of things. Okay. We're going to collect every week. You hear me?
He can't even say that with a straight face. He's laughing.
I was going to say, on that beautiful note.
Yeah. How about it? But a more serious component to that is, if you connect with someone, I'll do a deal with any of the four of you. You know, Matt, we just met. We're talking about some, you know, good details. Ryan, we know a lot of the same people. George, you know, we've seen each other quite a few times. If there's a deal that comes along and you guys need help.
Yeah, we don't steal deals, guys. So look, if you have a deal that you want to bring to the table and say, hey, you know what, you don't want to share it with everybody, but you want to share it with either me or Matt, you know what, go ahead and bring it to us. And you know, look, we'll run the numbers with you. We'll be your sounding board, and then you'll make the ultimate decision of whether or not you want to go forward. But at the end of the day, we're not going to steal your deal. We're not going to be, you know, or anything like that. We want to make you successful. Matt already got one guy his first multi-unit within, I think, it was like within a month or two of knowing the guy. He did that just, what was that, last year, Matt? You did that, right? So,
like, I mean, last year, the same scenario. It's crazy.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, we're not trying to, you know, the more we can help you, then, you know what, there may be a time when you may have an opportunity that you can't support, but yet you know that we can. And you may want to bring that to us. Hey, that's an opportunity. We all share in the love, and we are all happy. And it's really about integrity and respect. We live by a standard. Matt knows the standard I live by, and I know the standard he lives by. It's the same. We just happened to get into real estate around the same time, which is why we were sounding boards for each other. And because we have that rapport already established after 20 years, you know, we knew what we were doing. And sometimes when we didn't know what we were doing, we had resources to tap into. So we're giving you that opportunity. You have it, doesn't cost you anything, you know, why not take advantage of it? It's cool.
I have done deals with people part of this group, and I plan on it. You know, it could be small, could be big. You never know. But
yeah,
I'd rather have a half of a pie somewhere and have a little bit of education and, you know, good headspace that the guy I'm working with is decent than some random.
Right.
Or not being invested at all.
Right.
You know, we are investors. If the numbers work, we trust real estate more than we trust other assets. So that's why we're doing
it. And it's really about managing risk. That's what it's all about.
Mm-hmm.
It's about managing risk. So yeah, I'm going to jump off, man. I think we're done.
Yeah, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
Thanks so much. I'll send a message out with all the contact information afterwards. So please let me know if you need anything in the meantime. And
awesome.
We'll talk soon.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Take care.
I'll be in contact with you both about the cash flow killer.
Right on. Sounds good,
All right,
man.
cool.
See ya.
Take care.